Good evening and welcome to the Tibet Center here at 502 North Ridgewood Road in South Orange, New Jersey. We will begin by reciting the prayer for the spreading of the teaching throughout the length and breadth of the West, which you will find on the front page of the Tibet Center website, a little scrolling down. By the force of the blessing. So, we've been discussing ethics for the new millennium by His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and spent quite a bit of time discussing how to view the different aspects that make us up, the mental and physical aspects that make us up, to see how the whole idea of a me, of a person, is really dependent on these different aspects, that there is no actual independently existent self, that we are the, what would you call it? We are, it's not that we are the sum of the parts. Oh, thank you, Tony, join us.
You know, because I get more rooms and I can let more people in now. We have
Okay. So, we've been talking about the whole idea that the self is an interdependent entity. It's dependent on all these parts, mental, physical, and that there is not some independent self. The whole idea of interdependence negates the idea of independence. And that notion that not only are we interdependent, that this sense of me that I have is a bunch of interdependent parts that I impute a me on, but that I am also part of this organic, interdependent existence, and that my contribution, the efforts that I make within this interdependent environment are also, here, this is what we're getting to now, become the source of my happiness. That we are not these independent entities who can determine our own state of being and our own happiness, but that we are, in our dependence upon others, we affect others, they affect us. The attitude with which we enter into this interdependent relationship has an effect on us and on others. So that we are where we have reached, which is chapter 4. In the first paragraph on page 49, His Holiness says, "An ethical act is one which does not harm others' experience or expectation of happiness." So the way in which my actions affect others is important. And then he goes on to talk about happiness. Happiness is a relative quality. We experience it differently according to our circumstances. What makes one person glad may be a source of suffering to another. And we go on to where we reached last week, which was on page 51. And in the beginning of the paragraph that begins on 51, we have this explains why placing too much hope in material development is a mistake. And then His Holiness says, the problem is not materialism as such, rather it is the underlying assumption that full satisfaction can arise from gratifying the senses alone. So here, though we so often consider that our happiness depends on my gratifying my senses alone, it's very much sort of baked into the way in which we live today, especially in a society where our gratification has been made so accessible, so easy. We had a whole discussion a few weeks ago on Amazon Prime, which is the most extraordinary gratifier of senses. And yet it hasn't brought greater happiness to the world. Or has it?
It has not.
A little bit?
Convenience, that's about it.
I remember hearing that a study had been done on the effect of the washing machine on a household, and how in the olden days laundry was collected for a period of a week, and then once a week the washing was done, and so that took a few hours, and that was it for. In today's world, with washing machines, people tend to do their laundry every day, and it's a constant process, which, in terms of hours, takes up more of. And of course, the demand for absolutely clean clothes has gone up to the point where it all takes far more time, and doesn't lead to the happiness that one would think this convenient machine would provide. On the contrary, it removes the time for peace and quiet in one's life. Not agreeing. Please speak. Please share with us.
Well, I'm thinking of chapped hands. To the point of like fissures and bleeding sores from doing the laundry. Probably you do less because you definitely wouldn't wash your clothes as often. But I wouldn't want to do it for a household. That would be horrible.
But this was more in terms of the amount of hours devoted to it today, compared to the amount of hours that were devoted to it. This was a study that was done.
People must take better care of their clothes than me.
Amazon destroyed a lot of small businesses that created community.
Amazon did, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
Macy's right here closed. Livingston Mall, Macy's.
But let's not accuse Amazon of
No,
anything.
just the pros and cons.
Amazon is very much the product of a society that
desire,
wishes to be satisfied as quickly as possible.
With minimum of effort. And impulsively satisfies impulse more than anything. You can have it in 12 hours if you click.
No. You can have it in an hour.
Well, some of the stores, Walmart.
There, India has Amazon Now.
Really?
So as you're cooking, if you need an ingredient, you can have it delivered within 10 minutes.
Really?
Mm-hmm. They have people on motorcycles, yes. And it's so that when you order it, it's they know where you are, so that they send someone out with whatever it is, and yeah, it's gotten like that.
We don't have that here. You know, same day with Walmart, or if you had 2 hours, something.
But it's, I think, diminishing our satisfaction. I think that it's diminishing our sense of contentment.
Yes, because watch people blow up when they get the wrong thing, or the package in here in 2 hours. It's 2 hours. Yeah.
The whole ability to put something off, be content with what we have, that's all, that dissolves with this. And so if we're searching for happiness, if the ingredient,
Real happiness, yes.
well, without our knowing whether it's real or, what, as this says, it is the underlying assumption that full satisfaction can arise from gratifying the senses alone. So we have this underlying assumption. That's an underlying assumption which, if we're honest, we do have. And yet, I think that we're the crowd here is aware that
They're on their phones ordering now. As I look across the room.
Unlike animals, whose quest for happiness is restricted to survival and to the immediate gratification of sensory desires, we human beings have the capacity to experience happiness at a deeper level. Good evening.
Raining? Is it raining?
Oh, raining, yes. Much less. The thunderstorm front is past.
So, unlike animals, we're discussing happiness and the problem that the whole idea that full satisfaction can, the idea that we believe that satisfaction arises from gratifying the senses. Unlike animals, those whose quest for happiness is restricted to survival and to the immediate gratification of sensory desires, we human beings have the capacity to experience happiness at a deeper level, which, when achieved, has the capacity to overwhelm contrary experiences. Consider the case of a soldier who fights in a battle. He is wounded, but the battle is won. The satisfaction he experiences in victory means that his experience of suffering on account of his wounds will likely be far less than that of a soldier with the same wounds on the losing side. So,
That's interesting.
yeah, the idea of, so from a physical point of view, the suffering is the same. On some other level, that sufferer who is on the winning side, that mental attitude of joy at winning somehow diminishes his experience of suffering.
Maybe he feels that's a price he had to pay for victory, so it's okay. And, maybe one way.
But that's like an
mental
intellectual thing.
Yeah.
Just talking about the fear, the mere experience that he feels.
The euphoria of victory, you mean?
So it really is an important one, because it really is an insight into the degree to which our mental attitude influences our happiness, and that gives us that empowers us to work towards developing happiness in spite of our situation. Grace, you look skeptical. But it's rather exciting, the fact that we really can, by changing our attitude, determine whether we are happy or not, in spite of what the situation is. That's an empowering recognition.
It is, but it's not like you can just decide to look at a situation differently and have that change your emotions, right? I mean, it takes effort.
It takes effort, yes. But if we recognize that the effort can lead us to be happiness in spite of the situation, that it's in itself will lead us to make that effort.
Yeah, I mean, it can be a long process, but yeah.
Training. It's what it is.
What's a long process? You're talking years, lifetimes?
Lifetimes.
What are we?
Depends on what goal you're talking about, right?
Depends on the technique you use too. But it is training, I would think, mental training. It has to be.
Yeah, but I do think
Look
that
at that.
recognizing that mental training can affect our happiness
Yeah.
changes that in itself, opens a door to.
As the years go by, you should be more resilient when tragedies happen and things like that. That's an indication of growth. If you have a memory, you can think back to it. So,
I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say like the 8 verses for training the mind is an example of what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But, you know, I mean, it is not easy to kind of like actualize that. Like, you can read them and understand them, that's not
yes.
so difficult.
But any effort that we make towards seeing a situation with a little bit of perspective will lead to a greater degree of,
Absolutely, yes.
and knowing that helps us work towards viewing things with greater perspective.
Absolutely, yes.
I mean, I'm saying these things, I'm going over them just because I think that the more we can bear this in mind, the more we develop the awareness that enables us
That's
to
the key.
implement.
Bring it up into the awareness. Yeah. That's training too.
Yeah. No, what you're saying is true. It's the 8 verses on training the mind. We
Yes,
are working
yes.
in training the mind. This human capacity for experiencing deeper levels of happiness also explains why such things as music and the arts offer a greater degree of happiness and satisfaction than merely acquiring material objects. What do you think of that? And I say it that way because we are living in a society where it is material objects and the acquiring of material objects that is really put forward as the way of being happy.
Your car, your house, your technical equipment.
But I
Your
do think there are,
espresso machine.
I was going to say there are exceptions to this.
Yes,
you know.
cameras, espresso machines. Definitely, yes. Buddha even said, looking into the future.
Well, I mean, it is literally what that sentence is about, right? I mean, those are tools to produce something that is kind of not necessarily obviously materially valuable. You know, like when a musician plays music, right? Like that it's not a thing you can capture. Those are tools. I mean, it's the same idea. I think. Like your camera, it's the same idea. I think that's what the sentence is saying.
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
Well, so the sentence is saying that like humans specifically have like capacity for higher enjoyment. So like your camera, as an example, right, would be a tool for producing that. Like the reason people like looking at your photographs is like your photographs are physically would be the same as mine. Like it's the same, it would be the same print, right? Like it's just a piece of paper with something printed on it. It's made from the same thing. But like human beings have like this capacity for greater enjoyment where like there's something in that photographs that is different that a human can recognize. I mean, I think it's literally what he's saying, right?
Yep. But he's saying that acquiring the camera will give us a momentary joy.
Sure. Yes.
While engaging in the photographic process, working towards expressing oneself, or viewing a print, as you suggest, might inspire a deeper level of happiness than the acquisition of the tool.
Yeah, and this capacity is pretty universal because like if you ask me to describe what makes your photographs better, I have no idea. But
it's the quality of the camera. It's all in the quality of the camera.
But my point is that even though I have no idea, I can still tell the difference, right? Like so, that the special capacity of humans for that is pretty strong, is what I'm trying to say.
So but here you're going towards the object that is enjoyed, whether it's music, whether it's some visual thing, and I don't think that His Holiness here is talking about the object to be enjoyed. He's talking about enjoying the senses in a way that it's not that you possess music or that you possess, it's that you simply are letting the senses enjoy these things in I don't know what would the word be, a more graceful or a more, it's not the thrill,
The experience itself, basically, like not.
We talk about what are these chemical things that happen when we are happy. We have a
Serotonin.
The neurotransmitter release, or?
So joy comes from those momentary now I'm talking way out of my league.
It is correlated with those releases, yes.
So those releases, one of the reasons that we find ourselves, looking at our phones, is that looking at the phone produces a moment of, what's the word for?
Euphoria? No.
Well, it's a type of euphoria.
Yeah, like.
And
It's not
in today's world, it's harder to sit and enjoy a piece of literature, for example, because we want those quick.
Instant gratification.
Yeah, that's. Shortened attention spans, more or less.
Yeah, because we need those little jolts of I don't know what is it.
But what that-
Dopamine.
it-
They call it-
Dopamine?
The kids would refer to this as dopamine. I mean, in reality,
Yeah.
it's more complicated than just dopamine, but sure, yes.
But let's use the kids'
Yeah.
way of viewing it, because I think it's helpful. I think that if what we're trying to do is wean ourselves from that need for dopamine thrills or whatever, and develop a deeper an understanding, a recognition that there is a deeper quality of happiness that can be attained.
Can I push back on one thing that you're saying, which like it's probably just the way you're phrasing it. So I mean, like that deeper quality, the sense of happiness is probably associated with the same kind of neurotransmitter.
Yes,
like
yeah,
the
yeah,
underlying
yeah.
physical
Absolutely,
process of
absolutely,
emotion.
absolutely. No, but the something in the brain must wish for and actually get to a point where it needs more stimuli more often.
I guess the reason why I don't
Why you're pushing back?
why I'm pushing back on the phrasing in terms of the brain is that to me it sounds like it's just some sort of physical process that whatever I, in air quotes, don't control. That the brain does what it does the way my car does what it does.
But I do control. The whole point is where I'm getting to is that we are able, and I think this is what His Holiness is introducing, we are able to, that thrill is so momentary, and it leaves us wanting to such an extent that we need, it's like a drug addiction. And what we have access to and what we have the actual mental capacity to train ourselves to develop is a deeper level of happiness. And that's what...
I think all those things are
Yes.
impulses to suppress anxiety, to suppress dukkha. So the answer is not there. The answer is, why am I not happy? Why is it? If you're happy, you're not looking for this, or this. It's supposed suppressing. So something in you you're not satisfied with, and Buddhism says you have to look directly at that mind stream, and then with some knowledge.
So, Tony, I have a question. You're the oldest one among us.
Say the least, yes. Very much. Yes.
I feel, and I'm asking whether you feel that this is true, that we have become more impatient
Yes.
with a need to be thrilled.
Yes. Yeah, it's an addiction. Like a gambler. He
But it
wants
was
to-
always an addiction. There were always gamblers.
The excitement factor, it's not like we don't lose some kind of law. But they say the impulses, they fear death, they fear the situation, so they're overriding with their own brand of anxiety.
We can measure this. I mean, we know that people have become more anxious, more depressed. I mean, there were some debates about whether it was a real increase in the underlying emotions, or whether it was just better diagnostics, that like there were always that many people, but we're just finding them more now. But I think it's been, my impression is that debate has been settled, that it's a real increase. And it's
I would
quite
agree with
large.
that.
It is.
Yeah, I would agree, and also the means to stimulate yourself. I mean, there are more means to stimulate yourself now, take yourself out of the reality that's in your mind.
Yeah, I'm
Because of the
agreeing with
past.
everything you're saying. I'm just saying
Yeah.
you can also there's just data on this.
Yes, I'm asking for Tony's data. He's
No one sits quietly. The older people that weren't, for instance, my grandparents couldn't read or write, but they could be very serene among themselves. They weren't looking at the TV or something. The radio was put on to hear something, and then they turned it off. They seemed to be able to be serene, maybe because they were agrarian people, I don't know. But no one seems to be that way anymore. People don't like empty time, empty space, I gotta call someone up, I gotta do this, I gotta respond to this text. Where are you going? And you're boring, by the way. It has to be looked at.
well, more than it has to be looked at, it has to be acted upon, and it is actable upon.
And you see children with their little devices and being pushed in the car.
Children,
Children.
everyone.
Yeah.
We are trying to deliberately, in fact, our entire friend group is trying to deliberately train their kids to not do that.
Yeah. Good. But I'm talking about babies, like 4-year-olds, with a little doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Any supermarket you'll find them, you know.
Yeah, of course. I mean,
Your
to some-
grandkids operate in that level?
No, they don't have phones,
Oh, good.
not yet.
How old are they?
6
46.
and 8.
There are these little devices that aren't phones, but they're electronic entertainment nodes that play little cartoons and stuff, and they can press the button.
They don't have those.
Yeah, I'm wondering,
It's certainly more sophisticated. I remember the grandparents sitting there playing solitaire a lot at night.
yeah,
They'd sit and but that looked kind of addictive, just flipping the cards. But that was all there was.
they cheated on something. That's true, they played solitaire,
Yeah.
yes. More conversations took place too than now. People seem to not be as social. Young, I'm saying the 20s and 30s people, unless they're boozing it up, they don't seem to be interacting with anything except with their friends in real time, but on digital media only. A lot. Look at the park, I mean, this, instead of being in the park.
Mhm.
So, even though aesthetic experiences are a source of happiness, they still have a strong sensory component. Music depends on the ears, art on the eyes, dance on the body, and with the satisfactions we derive from work or career, they are in general acquired through the senses. By themselves, these cannot offer the happiness we dream of. So, in other words, true happiness doesn't come from the senses.
That's his theme.
Now, it could be argued that while it is all very well to distinguish happiness that is transient from that which is lasting, between ephemeral and genuine happiness, the only happiness it is meaningful to speak of when a person is dying from thirst is access to water.
Okay.
This is unarguable. Now, what do you think of that? This is a... Yeah, but why do you think he says it?
When you're in an extreme situation, your needs get very, very basic. That's one thing. I'm just observing. And it's not the time to instruct on anything else. We're not taking a neutral view or a good, not a good position to judge things in that situation.
So when it comes to the question of survival, naturally our needs become so urgent that the majority of our effort will go towards fulfilling them. Yet, because the urge to survival comes out of physical need, it follows that bodily satisfaction is invariably limited to what the senses can provide. So to conclude that we should seek immediate gratification of the senses in all circumstances would hardly be justified. So he's just simply saying that there are those situations where it is justified. It's more than justified, it's an imperative.
But not all the time.
Actually, when we think carefully, we see that the brief elation we experience when appeasing sensual impulses may not be very different from what the drug addict feels when indulging his or her habit. Temporary relief is soon followed by a craving for more.
Amen.
And in just the same way that taking drugs in the end only causes trouble, so too does much of what we undertake to fulfill our immediate sensory desires. Yeah? That's a big, that's really, I think, if we are following this text and we are really working to implement it, His Holiness is giving us a major warning against indulging in those things that
Yeah,
fulfill our
they're
immediate
addictive.
sensory desires.
Use the word addictive, right?
No,
Or
but
addict, yeah, good word.
there is the part of this where His Holiness is talking about a drug which has, built into it that addictive property, while he is saying, be careful that as just the same way that taking drugs in the end only causes trouble, so too does much of what we undertake to fulfill our immediate sensory desires. No comment? This is not to say that the pleasure we take in certain activities is somehow mistaken, but we must acknowledge that there can be no hope in gratifying the senses permanently. Now I think that we have to think of this in terms of, analytical meditation. These are the steps that we have to take in building up the muscle that prevents us from, that restrains us from indulging in mere gratification of the senses.
He's putting it in context, that's all.
I think that the last part that you just read is very important, that it is impossible to, the term he uses is sensory gratification, right?
Mm-hmm.
That it is impossible for that to be permanent.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, I think, the kind of key point usually in Buddhism, right? That the problem with it is that no matter how much you do it, it doesn't last.
But the rush is so much that you forget that, and you go back again and
Well,
again.
it-
So
well,
you really
so
have to stop.
First, it doesn't last, and then there's the unhappiness of it of having to get the next one.
Yeah.
Then there's the next level of even when you are happy, you know it will end. That's right, the second kind of suffering.
Yes.
And
It's
then
the perfect.
the third
perfect storm of
would be just knowing that this is an endless cycle that you can never stop. Is the third
It's
kind.
time to step out of that circle. Very hard to do because of the force of habit.
At best, the happiness we derive from eating a good meal can only last until the next time we are hungry. As one ancient Indian writer remarked, indulging our senses and drinking salt water are alike. The more we partake, the more our desire and thirst grow.
Who said that? I forgot. That's such a famous quote.
Drinking salt water.
Yeah, that it is like gratifying the senses is like drinking salt water.
It
Atisha.
may have been said many times. It's the kind of thing that
Okay.
by different people. So I've not heard it I haven't heard it attributed to a particular author.
But
I've
it's
heard it
mentioned all the time.
as
I feel like it doesn't matter.
Mr. Morton,
It sounds like Atisha.
Morton salt. No,
I think
goes
it
before
precedes Atisha.
Maybe the Buddha.
It's probably the Buddha, yeah.
Look in the
It's probably Nepali canon.
polycanon,
Yeah.
that's the word I want.
So I think really that what we've just gone through, this whole thing is the material that we have to use in analytical meditation. I think that this is, and we're going slowly enough so that we can really come to recognize the validity, not just of what is being said, but the validity of really working at developing an awareness of this.
Realizing how necessary this is for the fellow beings. Very important to deliver this message.
Well,
If if we
without proselytizing, without
can. Yeah, if we can.
applying it to ourselves.
Ourselves,
Just
the whole thing, yes. But
indeed.
it is very critical.
Indeed, we find that a great deal of what I have called internal suffering can be attributed to our impulsive approach to happiness. So that's pretty intense, because that's actually showing that the pursuit of happiness, our aberrated way of pursuing happiness, is a cause of much of our suffering. We do not
Use the word
stop.
impulsive, yeah. Not a considered decision.
We do not stop to consider the complexity of a given situation. Our tendency is to rush in and do what seems to promise the shortest route to satisfaction. But in doing so, all too frequently, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity for a greater degree of fulfillment.
This is actually quite strange.
So there was some person who asked His Holiness, what is the quickest way
Oh,
to achieve happiness? And His Holiness burst into tears. And we can't really say why His Holiness burst into tears, but we can work to recognize that it was on some level, a sadness at this whole idea that we could attain happiness quickly at all.
Sometimes he says, I'm skeptical of that, because usually people say also the quickest, the cheapest too, he said. Remember, I think in Wisconsin he did that, you were there. What is the shortest way to enlightenment, something like that, and usually people ask, and then the cheapest also, and then everyone started with. But yeah, if he bursts into tears, I never heard that, that's very, very sad. You have to think about that.
So all of this is really something to contemplate. Our tendency is to rush in and do what seems to promise the shortest route to satisfaction. But doing so, all too frequently, we deprive ourselves of the opportunity for a greater degree of fulfillment. This is actually quite strange. Usually, we do not allow our children to do whatever they want. We realize that if given their freedom, they would probably spend their time playing rather than studying. So instead, we make them sacrifice the immediate pleasure of play and compel them to study. Our strategy is more long-term. And while this may be less fun for them, it confers a solid foundation for their future. But as adults, we often neglect this principle. We overlook the fact that if, for example, one partner in a marriage devotes all their time to their own narrow interests, it is sure that the other partner will suffer. And when that happens, it is inevitable the marriage will become harder and harder to sustain. Similarly, we fail to recognize that when the parents are interested only in each other and neglect their children, there are sure to be negative consequences. Well,
Yeah, true.
you're the ones who...
I'm not a parent.
Yeah.
No, but
Parents
you've lived... A lot of this had to do with marital life.
Yeah.
I mean, it's true, yes. I have nothing to add.
But I think... yeah.
I guess, the less, when it works best if, well, of course, children are different, right? I mean, for the adults, if each one thinks less about themselves and more about the other one, and the other one does the same, then everybody gets the best outcome that way, right? So like the less each worries about themselves and more about the other person, the more you get, right? Like
It's a win-win situation.
well, it's
not
sometimes
zero-sum.
we have this analogy for our kid, like that these things are like Chinese finger traps. The harder you pull, the tighter it gets. You have to go the other way for it to release. So like there are a lot. We use this analogy for him. Like there are things like this is one of those things. It's like a Chinese finger trap. You know what I'm talking about? It's like
Those
this,
woven things, yeah. They,
tightens when you pull on it.
right.
Yeah. Although, you know, in most social situations, if you worry more about the other people and less about yourself, you're just gonna end up being taken advantage of,
Corporate
which is how a
world.
lot of the time it works.
You're taken advantage of in terms of, on one level, but you might be a happier person on another level.
Yes.
And we're aiming towards that happiness. I mean, that's what we're exploring.
Yes, I mean, all I'm saying is that, you know, you have to tailor your behavior to the situation.
Of course.
Yes.
When we act to fulfill our immediate desires without taking into account others' interests, we undermine the possibility of lasting happiness.
Simply considering their own desires, that's powerful. You know. There's no possibility of lasting happiness.
So this is really, selfish engagement. His Holiness is leading us to a recognition of the happiness derived from benefiting others, from the win-win situation of consider that if we live in a neighborhood with 10 other families and yet we never give a thought to their well-being, we rob ourselves of the opportunity to benefit from their society. On the other hand, if we make the effort to be friendly and have regular regard for their well-being, we provide for our own happiness as well as theirs. Or again, imagine an instant where we meet somebody new. Perhaps we go for a meal together. Now, this may cost us some money, but as a result, there's a good chance of founding a relationship, which brings many benefits over the years to come. Conversely, if on meeting someone we see a chance to defraud them, we take it, though we have gained a sum of money instantly, the likelihood is that we have completely destroyed the possibility of a long-term benefit from interaction with them. So don't defraud your friends.
Well, in public life, you can often see people who have gotten really quite far with an attitude like that, but they all universally seem really miserable.
It's a beautiful attitude. Yes.
Yes.
Homo sex.
But a lot of this is quite obvious, but I think that regardless of whether it is obvious, our society has made us instinctually behave in ways that are contrary to what he is showing us to lead to happiness.
Yes.
And going through these steps helps us develop confidence in doing things the right way. Confidence in, you were talking about how in business, you can't always think about the other person. You have to, you're expected in a work situation.
But you have to act appropriate to the situation is all I'm saying. Even if you are thinking about the other person, like it depends on the context. You have to understand that if you give them everything and ask for nothing in return, in that context you will get nothing in return.
Yeah, but you will, on some other level, you will get a lot in return.
It depends on what you need. If you need the money, then you need to ask for it. Anyway, this is I'm nitpicking
So,
it.
No,
that's
but
the
no,
theme
no,
of the
but
whole society.
what
It's
we're
not a-
exactly that is the given, and what we are trying to develop an awareness of is that doesn't lead to happiness.
Okay, let me rephrase what I'm trying to say.
No, we get what you're trying to say. We understand what you're trying to
Okay.
say.
From direct experience of your years.
Okay.
Yeah.
We know that, that these truths do not, that we have to apply them skillfully, given that within the work world, we have to behave in an appropriate way. Yes, but even within the work world, we can behave honorably, properly.
Yes.
We can work towards recognizing that there is value in acting honorably. We may not become as incredibly wealthy. No. But even that, we're recognizing doesn't lead to
Yeah.
the contentment that is true happiness. On the contrary, you only get
It
there.
seems to lead to the opposite if you just look around.
Yeah, like you said just the other before, and you're right. Yeah. You don't have to do deep analysis on that one.
So it's 8 o'clock.
Yes. Any names, Darren? No names.
Hold on 1 second.
What? Oh, we have names.
We've been asked to recite the 3 jewels for Barney Frank,
Oh, Barney Frank.
Mark Furman, and the victims of the San Diego mosque shooting.
Yeah.
Base.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good mistake.
So next Monday we shall not have class. Next Monday is Memorial Day, and therefore we shall not have class in New York.
Right. Good job.